And welcome back to American Agenda. 30 million Americans are out of work. So is it time to reopen our economy? Or is the public health risk still too great? That brings us to our tweet of the day. We are working. Open America. Americans are smart. We adapt and manage risk. At-risk citizens with low immunity stay sheltered. A closed economy destroys too. Can Americans be trusted to mitigate the spread of coronavirus while getting back to work? To weigh in, let's ask our A-plus panel for the day. Walser Wealth Management President Rebecca Walser and UBS Financial Services Advisor and friend Tracy Byrnes. Tracy, good to see you. Haven't seen you in so long. Good to have you with us. So tell us what your thoughts are on this as we try to get back to work. What are the gotchas that maybe we're not thinking about?
Yeah, Bob, it's great to see you too. It's been too long for sure. And look, I would love to believe that we can trust the American people, but I think we know we can't. And we do have to do this very systematically and think through this logically. We do need the economy back. A Great Depression could be far worse than the disease, and we all know that. We are pretty much hoping that we come back in this U-shaped recovery type form. We're already hearing corporations start to think about 1 week on, 1 week off, splitting their workforce, doing it thought-provokingly. You're going to need to wear masks. People have to be okay with this. Otherwise, we will have a lockdown again, and we will all be back in our homes in the fall. And I know firsthand, my teenagers do not want to be here with me another minute. So we need to do this the right way.
Rebecca, do you think that Americans can be trusted? Tracy says not so much. What do you think?
I mean, I think that you're seeing a bunch of uprisings, right? I don't know what you call them uprisings, but little petitions and protests here and there because people are frankly kind of over this and sick of it. And, you know, to have a blanket sort of lockdown, stay at home when different areas are different, even within one state, one area of the state might be much greater impacted than another area. So we do need to reopen. I 100% agree with Tracy. And we need to open sooner rather than later. We have to do it systematically. We have to do it safely, responsibly. But we have other examples now, South Dakota being one of them, where they have not necessarily shut down, and yet their containment has been good. So we need, obviously, it's not a highly populated area, so we have to take that into consideration. But there are examples of being able to be open and be responsible at the same time. And I take high offense to people that have this mentality of, oh, you're for profits over people because you want to reopen. What? I mean, as far as I understand, businesses not being open and people not getting paid also hurts people.
Yeah. And I think you're right. And there's such a big difference in there, Tracy, between what people see in New York, because I've always felt, I live in Nashville, right? And there's New York and D.C., and then there's the rest of the country. And sometimes, you know, people's experience is totally different. So I guess my question is, how would we know that we're expanding too fast? We know there's going to be an uptick, Tracy, but how do we know that we need to back off?
Yeah, I think now more than ever, it's really on a state-by-state basis. I mean, we cannot blanket the entire country and shut it down anymore. It's not right, and it's not necessary. I am in New Jersey. I am a second from the epicenter, so you're right. I see a very different world than the rest of your viewers. And quite frankly, I do think it's getting better here in New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, but I would be very nervous about just saying, okay, everybody go. We can't do that here, but that doesn't mean that the rest of the country can't start getting back to some semblance of normalcy to help the economy. I mean, you know what? New York constantly helps and creates for America. Maybe the rest of the country could chip in right now and help, because New York needs to really take its time on this. We can't open the subways. We can't open corporations yet. We can't get on Manhattan Island, quite frankly. We need the economy to pick up in the rest of the country.
Rebecca, what do you think we really need to pay attention to right now to make sure that we keep moving in the right direction from an economic standpoint so that we don't go backwards here?
You know, I think that we are going to have a higher increase of cases. You know, when you start to have people re-interact with each other, you will see the case level tick up. And so it's very important that we deal immediately and aggressively with medical protocols on the front end before people get really direly sick, and that leads to potential death. Obviously, there's different risk classifications. I would like to see death rates starting to get broken down by age segment so that we can stop having this overwhelming fear of, gosh, if I come down with it, I might be exposed to death. Maybe not. You know, let's get a better better breakdown of what is actually affecting who and what age class. But medical protocols are going to be very important if someone does get infected when they do go back into society, to quickly intervene, since we don't have a vaccine that will prevent it, to quickly intervene. And I think once people realize, and I hate to say it this crassly, but once people realize they can go out and not die, and that they can just maybe get a little bit sick and recover, then we'll start to see some level of normalcy. And I know that's crass, but it's the deaths that we were so concerned about. And once we know that the deaths are not going to be as large as they were, that's we can start to re-enter society.
Yeah, and as we find out how many people actually have it, that number of fatality risk, it seems to go down, Rebecca. And so I think people see that. We have learned a lot over the past couple months, haven't we?
Yes, we have. Absolutely.
So as we go forward, do we need more money from Congress to get people out there, to get them spending? Are we okay where we are, Rebecca?
I'm not a huge government interventionist. I think it usually goes wrong. It was necessary at first. I completely understand. But these states that are crying now for resources, let's have those states redirect their efforts into getting their state open and there's tax revenues at the state level re-energized, because the Federal Reserve is not collecting the taxes on the income side. They're bailing people out, and they're not collecting state income or federal revenue taxes on those things. So we don't have an endless pot. Debt is already almost going to be $30 trillion after CARES is added, fully added. We're talking about $30 trillion of federal debt. Let's stop looking at this unending money bowl that we do not have, and let's get people back to work to generate revenue, to collect taxes, because there's money does not grow on trees. In case anybody missed the memo when they were growing up, money does not grow on trees, even for the United States federal government.
Oh, we all wish it did,
But
though.
but it's certainly on the table, right, Bob? I mean, Stimulus 4 is on the table. It is happening. They're talking about it. There probably will be more money, sent out to the states in particular. Now they're asking for money for the farmers. I understand it becomes a money grab, but you certainly want to make sure that your small businesses are up and running. They have the money they need to keep going, because as we said when we started this segment, you don't want to see this country in a depression.
Yeah, and while we work on that vaccine, maybe we can create that money tree as well. So,
Well, Tracy Byrnes and Rebecca Walser. Yes, thank you so much, ladies. We appreciate your time and sharing your expertise. Coming up, we will have continuing coverage of the coronavirus crisis.